It's interesting because I'm reading the book of Ecclesiastes. I'm doing a whole series of Ecclesiastes, and I'm posting it online. Started from chapter 1, but chapter 3 goes into everything has its time, and I just love that chapter. So that's going to be posted probably tomorrow. And again, I think us meeting now, it was something divine that I want to believe. It's like you came into my mind for some reason. You came into my mind, and then you liked a post, and I was like, there was just so many signs, and I was like, okay, man, I gotta reach out to him and make this happen. So
Most definitely. And I think for me, it's been one of the words that I'm trying to kind of implement more in my vocabulary is intention. And
me too,
I feel
man.
like it's something, it's very easy to follow people on social media and just watch.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I'm going to be following you, I'm going to try to support you in any way I can, even if it's sending a like or sending you a nice comment or a DM and stuff like that. And obviously for you, like it's, I feel like since we've been able to connect more and really being able to connect on a much deeper level, even though we've only met a couple of times in the past, I see what you're doing as a very important thing that you're doing, because you're building a platform where people can share their stories, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of prayer and a lot of just perseverance to do what you do. So I commend you on that. So if there's any little comment, I'll try to support in the best way I can. And I do believe in God's timing too. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people don't see the power of the support, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people think that they have to be on the mountain hill and just scream, and you got to be on this huge platform, but all you have to do is just and that's the society we live in today. So when you do that, it does spark this fire in that person saying, you know what, maybe I am doing something good, and maybe that message I put out was something impactful. So that little like that you put just gave me a more confirmation, say, you know what, let me reach out, because you're on the same level when it comes to your mission. And I want to know a little bit about your mission, because I know that you talk a lot about financial literacy. You love numbers, which I'm completely the opposite of, right? You love talking about that, and you love talking about spirituality. You are engaged, so we're going to get into that. So tell me a little bit why you got into finances. What's the whole love affair you have with finances?
Well, honestly, my journey has been literally a roller coaster. For me, I've been in many different industries. I tried many different things. My background is baseball, and ever since I retired, quote unquote, from the game, because I was fortunate enough I played at a high enough level, in the professional level, that had the opportunities that most people don't have in the sport. So once I officially decided to move on from the game, it was literally ground zero. I had nothing but a college education. I was fortunate enough to get my degree, and I think for me, it's always been trying to find myself in the process. When I look back at 2017, that's when I officially started my quote unquote entrepreneurial journey. Just trying to find myself, try to just redefine myself and become the person that I wanted to become ultimately. And I've been in many different industries, from the marketing world. I tried real estate. I've been in the Forex field, the crypto field as well. That's when things really started to really shape out for me. Once I started tapping a little bit more into the finance field, I was like, whoa, what is this finance stuff? And when I got introduced to day trading back in 2018, 2019, I'm like, what is this? You can make money from your phone, click a couple buttons, learn, read some charts. I was like, oh, wow, this seems pretty interesting. So I started really dabbling more into that side of finance. And that's what kind of drew me more closer to the possibilities of what that industry can do. So I've always been good with numbers. I've always been good at math, even in school as a kid. I've always been good with numbers. And I like I like to not really compare myself to like to be like a mastermind in numbers to have the profession that I have. You don't have to be a mastermind to do it, because you do have a lot of tools and resources available now in 2025 more than ever.
Sure.
You have access to that information as well. I feel like if you really really love numbers, you'll probably be closer to becoming like a CPA or someone who actually deals
Yeah.
more with numbers than I will personally deal with. I deal with CPAs a lot because it's part of someone's financial picture.
Right.
But I feel like that's always been something that was deep in me, that I've always had a passion for finance. And funny story, I always like to tell this. As soon as I retired from playing professional baseball, my first real interview in the workplace was to become a financial advisor.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had zero experience. I don't know what the heck I was doing, and it was quite a process. I didn't know. I've never been a part of a huge interview process in my life before. I got my first
Now
job.
the interview is for the job.
And it's to become a financial advisor
Right.
at one of the top firms in Manhattan, because I was living in New York at the time. And it's just crazy how everything works, because I was gonna get the job. Well, at least I believed I was gonna get the job. But then on the final interview, it was like the third interview, I felt like something spoke to me. And now looking back, it was definitely God. God definitely spoke to me, and I had my tie on. I was feeling great. I had a new hairstyle at the time, and he told me not to wear a tie. And any smart person, I'll tell anybody watching this, if you're going to interview, please wear a tie.
Right.
Just wear a tie. For me, I didn't. I decided, I was like, hey, I'm going to be a little bit of a rebel and not wear a tie, because I got this down packed. And, I crushed the interviews, but at the end of the day, I was called out on my tie. Never heard from them ever again.
Wow.
That led me down a different path, where I got into the marketing field, like I said, and I ultimately ended up getting into the Forex niche. And ultimately, 5 years later, transitioning over to regulated finance and really financial planning and comprehensive planning for families. And it's just been quite a journey, just being able to do that. But I'm so grateful for that journey, because I would have never experienced everything I experienced in those years, because I feel like now I'm better built and better suited to help families, because I have the experience, I have the battle scars, I like to say, because I failed a lot. And when people say, Anthony, how can you educate somebody in finance? Well, I was like, first off, I can tell you what not to do, because I failed a lot personally in my own finances, and in my own career, because I just had no system. So that's kind of like a little quick synopsis of how I ended up even getting into this field. But I love what I do. You got to really love what you do in this particular field.
That's important. I always tell people that, you have to understand your purpose, your calling. When you wake up in the morning, you're excited about, what you're going to be doing. Now, the stress, the heartaches, and what's going to happen tomorrow, all that, that's all part of it. But you still understand your purpose, you understand your vision, you understand that no matter how hard it looks and feels, you're going to continue moving towards that direction. So again, that to me is important.
I agree with that, because I felt like during my entrepreneurial journey, since 2017 even to now, to in 2025, it's been 8 years. And even though I was getting into businesses, building my own businesses, trying, failing, I felt like I was still trying to find myself. I felt like I still didn't have a purpose. And I come to find out that my foundation was on sand. And it was not where it is now that I have God at the center of everything that I do. That's what I want to get.
That's what I want to get into, because purpose for me, it's beyond more of the career part, right? I think God, he uses, if we are aligned properly to his will, our careers become a source of income, right? It's how we live. It's how we produce the necessary means for us to live, to have a life, right? And I always tell this to anyone that comes here to the studio. You know, I love building content. That's the main thing. Our business, we build, we brand, we create content for businesses, but our mission is to present Christ to people. So there's a deeper essence, there's a deeper reasoning why I do what I do, right? So it's more than what you see in the surface. There's something more grounded in the foundation. So tell me a little bit about that experience you had, and were you always a Christian? Were you always a follower of God? How was that experience for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I can even go all the way back, even as a child. I'll say I grew up in the church up until like 12 years old. I was baptized in the Mormon Church, Church of Latter-day Saints, as an 8-year-old kid. I felt like, well, now looking back, you know, I was just a kid. It was not my choice. It was just part of the process and stuff like that. And I got to experience that. And also, I went to Catholic high school, which is a whole twist.
That's
a whole twist.
Yeah, that's a big
different.
change.
So I went to Catholic high school. Shout out to Severian High School in Brooklyn, and I was able to experience Catholicism for the first time, and you know, saying the Our Father in the mornings, every single morning in homeroom, and memorizing it. And I'm like, okay, this is completely different than the Mormon Church, and I just felt like I never really just resonated with any of that. And I think because I was bouncing from religion to religion and experiencing that, I never really focused on my personal relationship with God. And that's one of been the biggest turning points in my life, especially in my most recent, I'll say in the last year and a half, where I really found myself, and that's ever since I moved down here from New York to Miami. It's been the biggest thing, and I've spent probably over, I'll say, close to 18 years out, like away from the church. I've always been like one of those Christians that would pray here and there and thank God for things, and I was just a lukewarm Christian. I'm not afraid to say it. I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or it was when it was convenient, or I believed in Christ. I believed in God, but I wasn't obeying him. I don't know if you saw a meme recently circling the internet where there's 2 paths, and one of the paths is a huge group of people who say they believe in God, but then there's a very, very small number of people on the other route who actually obey God.
Yeah, the narrow way.
Yeah, so that right there, I was like, okay, I need to really think about the type of relationship I want to have with God. And the biggest thing was moving down here. And the very first week since we moved down here to Miami, we got introduced to our church. And that's been the biggest blessing for us because, we didn't expect to come down here. Like anybody from New York who wants to move down to Miami, they have this ambition like, oh, I'm going to come down here. There's an entrepreneurial hub. I'm going to collaborate. I'm going to build business. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to have the cars. I'm going to have the houses. You come here with that mindset. And that's the mindset I had coming in, honestly, because I was at a high point in my life before I moved down to Miami, and all that came crashing down when I came down here to Miami. And coincidentally, it all came crashing down as soon as I publicly made my declaration to Jesus Christ and made a public declaration in my faith when I got baptized last February in 2024. So for me, to answer your question, I've always been a Christian. I've always been a believer, but just until I'll say a year and a half ago, I really dedicated my life and my purpose and built my foundation even in my household now, even in my relationship, even in my finances, and all these things, like what I thought served me in the past, they no longer serve me anymore. And that's one of the big transitions that I made last year as well. We can talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but when I put God in the center, he just said, here, I'm just going to start moving everything.
Yeah.
Oh, we thought this was for you. This is not what I have planned out for you. And I started trusting more and more and more in God. And it's funny, I had a conversation with my fiance recently where we always say, Jesus, take the wheel, that figure of speech, Jesus, take the wheel, but we always want to drive still. So it's kind of like, hey, Jesus, take the wheel, but wait, hold up. Let me drive where I want to go first, because like I still want to be in control. But little do they know, when you fully surrender, you're fully surrendering everything that you're going to do, right? Your business, your relationship, and it may not go exactly how you planned out. And you may be disappointed at first, but just know that, you know, God is gonna destroy what you thought was was your plan, to set you up for His plan for you, because His plan is perfect.
Absolutely. And that's why the relationship part, you know, building it with God is essential for a Christian, right? There's this term that we use, it's called sanctification, right? Sanctification is, you know, you're building with Christ, you're building this relationship, but at the same time you're reflecting the character of Christ. So when you look in the mirror, are you reflecting Christ? Is that who you see in the mirror? It's no longer you, because the moment you see yourself is because you still cannot see the grace of Christ that basically covers our iniquity, our sins, our imperfections. Can you see Jesus when you look in the mirror? That's the big thing. And that, for me, you know, I gave my life back to God about maybe 20 years old, you know, had my crazy experience. And till this day, it's still being worked at. My faith is still being worked at. It's just constantly working at. And it's a process. But you always have to look at yourself and look at your spirituality and your relationship with God. And it's just like what you said, right? And this is how I kind of compare it. When I see that things are too easy, especially with my walk with God, when things are getting too easy, that means I'm kind of flowing with the ocean. It's like, whoa. Being a Christian, and it's going to sound kind of weird when I say this, but being a Christian, if it's fun, that means you're doing exactly what the world wants. Okay? The moment that you follow Christ, and He says it, right? I will give you peace, not happiness. Understand that. God does not promise happiness. He promises peace. There's a difference. So when you find yourself going through tribulation and trials, that's because God is preparing us for something greater. Not what we see here superficially, but what is to come, right? And that's important, because what you were saying is, you know, gradually you're going to see things in your life that are going to be chipped at.
Yeah.
And for us, right, we're like, why is it not happening? Why isn't this happening? But I wanted this. And God said, you asked me to take control. I am taking control. And then you start realizing, okay, God, I did say that, you know, you are in control.
Yeah.
And He starts chipping at you, and you start seeing yourself building your character, because that's what He wants to work with, character, you know. Another thing that, you know, we had a discussion. I had a therapist, a friend of mine, and she asked me a question, because I always ask this question to a lot of people, is, do you believe in perfection? I'm going to ask you, do you believe in perfection? Do you believe it's possible to be perfect?
I don't believe any human being could be perfect. I feel like we're naturally born sinners, and we're going to be sinning every single day. And there's no way for us to actually be perfect. The only thing I believe that the only person that I would believe was perfect was Jesus Christ Himself.
There you go.
And that right there, and understanding that because we're not perfect, that automatically puts us below a God, below Jesus Christ. So that's when you know fully, like, I am not worthy to be putting myself on a pedestal next to Jesus Christ. I am at your feet. I'm surrendering to you. So when you come with that mindset and understand that there's no comparison between a human being and God himself, then you put God where he's supposed to be. And so, yeah, I don't believe in perfection, man. I'm not even perfect now, even though I'm much closer to God than I ever was.
So let me, because this is good, because I like having the conversation. This is not to rebuttal you or anything like that. This is nothing. But I think it's important because I always had this concept that it was basically trained in my mind that it's impossible to be perfect. But what you just said was basically something that there's some truth in it, right? But we have been programmed in a way to think that it's basically impossible to be perfect. But our minds, when we hear the word perfection, we're thinking something else. What I'm talking about is, and it goes back to what I was saying, when you look in the mirror, who do you see? Do you see Christ or do you still see yourself? Now, if you still see yourself, there is a problem. But if you see Christ, that means that you are completely surrendered to his grace and what he did on the cross. Because what he calls us to do, if we look at the book of Revelation, he says, he calls us to be holy. He says that the saints will inherit the kingdom. He says, be imitators of Christ. Was Christ perfect? You just said it. Was Christ perfect?
Yeah.
And why does the Bible say be imitators of Christ? Because there is the possibility, but only through Christ can we be perfect, but only through him. That's what people don't understand.
Through him.
It's not through my works. It's through his grace and through his mercy. So that changed me because,
Love that.
yeah, because what happens is if I continue putting it in my mind that it's impossible to be perfect, that means that I will stay in my state of mind of financial literacy. I suck at being good at numbers. But you're going to tell me and say, no, Roger, it is possible. If you make this move, if you make this move, if you make this move, if you discipline yourself. So what just happened? My mind was changed.
Yeah.
Romans 12. Don't be conformed to the standards of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You see, if we think how the world thinks and says, hey, you know what, Anthony? You're not going to be nothing. I look at you and I don't think you're going to be anything. I don't think you can teach me anything. That's how the world perceives it.
Yeah.
But God's saying, no, your mind can be transformed. You can be good at something. You just have to put the effort toward it. So I'm very careful of that mindset of it's not possible. It is possible. It is possible.
You think
You just
so?
have to work at it.
Nah, okay, definitely when you put it in that.
But I get what you're saying because that's how it's kind of basically programmed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I love that we're having this conversation because I consider myself a new Christian because that's something for me. It's something that's I'm still open to learning and really just diving deeper into the Word, and I'm just trying to really incorporate those principles in my life every single day. And I'm actually glad that you shaped it in that way because I'm like, okay, it's something new that I learned today. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I always pray for is just, God, just keep me open-minded. Don't keep me closed to any perspective, because for me, when I'm open to listening and hearing and understanding, most importantly, because most people can just listen and they don't really truly grasp and understand what's being said behind the scenes. And, I'm glad that you were able to kind of combat and give me that constructive criticism and to say like, hey, Anthony, I get what you're saying, but this is how you can also see it. And this is the way to actually see it, to actually like fully grasp the mindset that a believer and someone who's fully submitted to God can do. And that ultimately is going to allow you is going to trickle into everything that you do in your life. And, I've been able to do that right now with, and I pray every single day for God to use me to help people steward their finances, because I'm a firm believer that if I'm able to help as many people as possible in their finances, they're gonna be impacted in such a positive way. They're gonna want to give back to the kingdom.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there's not, there's not enough of that going around. And I truly believe in tithing, and I really want to be able to like just pour into people, because when I talk to people, it's not only, hey, okay, let me see your balance sheet, how your assets, liabilities looking. You know, I like to allow them to know me a little bit more on that level. And I always love to talk about Jesus. I love to talk about God, kingdom principles, and they start to really understand. Okay, Anthony he's kind of different. You know, he's not like these traditional advisors, people who are out here in suits and just trying to, or they just see me as a number or a commission or a sale and stuff like that. My approach is completely different than most. And because I have God at the center, I ask God to use me and use my resources that I have access to and the information that I have access to be able to help people steward their finances. Because I feel like if I'm able to impact 100 people, and the 100 people are giving back to the church or giving back to the community and making an impact and giving and doing that, like, I'm making an impact.
And that's important, right? And that's where, you know, we go back to that, like, you know, change is possible, right? Character, because you're really working on that person's character. And the moment that you're able to bring to light information, right? It's like, you know, you look at your balance sheet, right? And sometimes I run away from my balance sheet because I don't want to see the truth. I am terrified of the truth. I'm terrified of what I'm going to see. But the reality is, and that's how our spiritual life is, the moment you open up the Word of God, the moment that you face reality, God doesn't condemn you, right? It's like what Scripture says. Jesus didn't come to condemn, but he came to save. So the moment that we are able to see our condition, we're able to find a solution. God always gives us a solution, and he shows us, and like, you know what? There's a way out of this. And I think, you know, what you're doing is such an amazing opportunity for so many people, because even for me, you know, we're going to talk here on the podcast, but off camera as well. But that's one of the biggest things I've always struggled with. And it was something that you look at and you're like, man, I don't want to face this. I don't want to look at this. But every time I looked at it and I faced it, it was just like, wow, okay. We have an objective. We have a mission. We know where we're going. And if you're not studying Scripture, you're not looking at those details of your bank account, or you're not taking care of your health, you are completely lost. It's like you're just moving without purpose. And you used the word before, I want to do things with intentions. You're not going to do things with intentions. So again, I love what you're doing when it comes to financial literacy and bringing that information to people. And, you know, your walk with God, I think that's very important. Talk to me a little bit about your relationship. I know you're engaged.
Yeah.
You know, how long have you been engaged?
We've been engaged for, I think it's already been 7 months. We got engaged in November 24.
That's awesome, man. 7 months. So when I met you, that was...
Freshly engaged.
Freshly engaged.
That was
I remember
Christmas
that.
Party.
Christmas party.
Yeah.
Right? She came down from New York, too. She's from New York?
We came down together. Yeah.
That's
we came
awesome,
down,
man.
and my brother and his now wife, we all came down. It was a package deal that we were looking to come down from New York.
Awesome. So how do you see, you know, because we live in a very interesting society today, you know, and I'm curious, how do you see relationships today, especially coming to Miami? What have you seen when it comes to you taking that commitment, and why do you think that commitment is so important of you getting engaged with your now fiance?
I think really, when you really pray for a partner that's going to be able to just be that person that's going to be able to push you in the direction that you're meant to be headed, to someone who can support you. Like when you really focus on those things, and God provides, and you know that person is there as placed in your life for a particular reason, I feel like there's no reason why you shouldn't try to make a commitment to that person. And that's what I felt when I met Tiffany. So just a quick story. I met Tiffany 10 years ago. We actually went to college together.
Oh, wow.
And my senior year, before I graduated, I met her and we actually dated a little bit in college, casual dating and stuff like that. We were young. She was 20, I was 21 at the time. And I ended up graduating, ended up signing a professional baseball contract, and I got shipped out to New Mexico, and she was still in school. And we tried the whole casual dating thing for about a year.
Long distance.
Yeah, it just didn't work out.
Right.
I was in a different headspace. She was in a different headspace. Mutually parted ways. And crazy the thing is, about almost 7 years later, without no communication, without following each other on social media, God reconnected us somehow, put it in my heart to just reach out via social media. I clicked her, I followed her on social media and we reconnected. And now 3 years later, we're engaged, planning for marriage. And it's just crazy to think that, we think about like, oh damn, I'm never going to find that person. But sometimes God puts people in your life years ago and you never even knew it, or maybe you weren't even prepared for it. So God is going to put you guys on a different path to shape you into the man and woman you're supposed to become. So that way, when you guys get reintroduced to each other, you are two totally different people, and now you are better suited for each other. And that's kind of how everything just worked out so quickly with Tiffany. And we literally started dating, and when I officially asked her to be my girlfriend, she knew I was planning to make the move down here, and it was just something that it was a tough decision that we needed to make.
Yeah.
And I am just so blessed and honored that we were able to make the decision together. And
that's awesome.
And she decided to really join me in this journey and making this move. And it was very hard for her as well. She was dropping everything.
Sure.
So
and what does she do?
She's a nurse. She's a registered nurse.
Oh, she's a nurse. Okay.
So she was working at the hospital over there. She still does. But it's more so like when you have this routine.
Sure.
It's you're making good money, and for someone to drop all of that that consistency to come with some guy she just started dating.
Did you pop the question? Did you tell her when you met her? Did you tell her your intentions?
100%.
Okay, good. So tell me how that went, because that's important to understand, right? So were you already did you surrender yourself to God already?
No,
were you a follower of Christ?
Not at all.
So nothing. All right. So you just told her and said, okay, these are my intentions. So tell me how.
Yeah, for sure. So literally from the very first reconnective date that we had, it was just like, hey, let's catch up. It wasn't really there wasn't anything to it. So we just reconnected after all these years. And for me, when the topic of discussion came up, like, hey, so are you seeing anybody and stuff like that? When she asked me that, I was like, no, I'm not. But if you were to ask me if I'm ready for a relationship, I told her straight up there. I was like, I'm ready for a relationship yesterday. Like, I told her that because I've been praying and I've been preparing myself, and I've said no to many women who try to pursue me because I knew that, like, if I saved myself from potentially slipping up with somebody that, I barely even knew, I would have never been in this situation where I was going to be able to reconnect with now my future wife. So by me focusing on myself, I was able to, block anything that the enemy was trying to use to distract me and really attract the blessing of bringing back the person that was always meant for me. And, I always was intentional, and it's a funny story. Don't get mad, Tiff. I'm gonna say it, but
Tiff, don't get mad.
Yeah, it was funny. She asked, I think it was like the second date or the third date. I kind of asked her what were her intentions, and she was like, "Oh, Anthony, I kind of want to go with the flow." I literally told her straight up in the car. I was like, "All right, let me know when you're done going with the flow. You can reach out."
Wow.
So I was like,
I like that.
And then I just set the tone from there, and I told her, like, hey, I'm serious. I'm not here to waste my time.
So was the word marriage in that discussion though? Because people can say relationship, but what does that really mean? Right? Or did you say, hey, this is my intentions. My intentions is I want to get married.
100%. I told her that my like my next relationship, I'm planning for marriage. Like that's the person that I want to be with, because
love
I've
it,
been
love it,
single
love it.
for like 7 years before that. So like I had a long time of being single,
Man.
and just obviously I was sinning, I was living the single life, I was doing all that. And for me, it was more so like, all right, I'm ready to really commit and really, and just my priorities were changed a lot.
Changing.
And I would say, you know, my brother Steven, he was a big influence in that part, because he got
So
into a
Stephen,
certain,
he gave his life to the Lord first, and he was kind of like the callus of that. He was
I would say, I would say we were around the same, we were on the
Same path.
same path for the most
Gotcha.
part. Me and my brother were very close. We did everything together
Yeah,
and
man. I
stuff
see.
like
You
that.
guys look like twins, man. I always get confused with
We are
both of you
twins.
guys. That's right. That's true. That's true. But not identical twins.
We're fraternal, yeah.
Yeah, that's
we're
true.
fraternal twins. So we're very close.
Yeah, yeah,
our relationship has transformed even in the last 2
I
years.
love it, man. I love you guys.
In
Yeah,
our own
you guys
ways
are
for
dope.
sure. But I'll say no. Like he got into a serious relationship with his now wife. Well, it was already in like 2 years in, into his relationship. And I saw that. I was like, wow, I saw how it was changing him, because he was changing, being in a relationship with Sabrina, which is now his wife. And I was like, okay, he's doing things like that he was never doing before.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, all right, this maybe, I'm tired of being the third wheel. I just need to really prioritize what's important, and really have the mindset like I'm gonna attract what I want. So I just started really praying. I told you I've always believed in Christ, and
Yeah,
I
you
just
did it,
prayed
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I didn't really I wasn't going to church. I just prayed. So I guess I had somewhat of a relationship with
Well,
Jesus.
that's where it begins. That's where it begins.
Yeah.
I think, God is so wonderful. He's so amazing that he reaches us at where we're at, basically, right? Even in our ignorance, in our small understanding of who he is, when we show a small amount of faith, and that's why I love the comparison. Jesus says, if you have the faith of the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. That just gives you, it's just like a comparison, just like, a side of a man, if I can move mountains. It's like, so you show a little bit of faith, God will meet you where you're at.
And he did.
And he did. And I think that's important that you started understanding that. And sometimes people, and I always tell people, be very careful with feelings, right? Because I was gonna question you on that, because, and not to doubt your relationship with Tiffany, but sometimes people go off on, oh, you know what, that person's life looks like that, so let me imitate that lifestyle, because it might fit my lifestyle. But you said the most important thing, and I was waiting for that, and that is that you put that into prayer. Even though you saw your brother, and that was a reflection of, you know what, that looks like the life that I want, but is it God's will? And that's when you said pray. So that's the recipe. You put it into God's hands, and you say, God, what is it that you want in my life? And because you remind me, and I love this, because when I met my wife, I've been with my wife for 26 years. So it's that first day that I met her, and I was around 17 to 18. I was a young man, but I did some crazy stuff at an early age. I have done, I'm not going to say that I'm embarrassed by it, but I've done a lot of things in a very short period of time. Where when I met her at church. This was when I gave my life to God, and I was just like, I want this change in my life. And I knew that I was really young, and she was young. But I told her on that first date, that first time I asked her out, I said, I'm not playing games. If we're going to do this, I want to get married with you. So I basically asked her to get married. At that time, I said, I can't. I'm not wasting my time, because, dating and then go through the heartbreaks, and 3 years later, and, we're done, and I invested all that time. I was like, I'm all in. And then she accepted, our relationship. We started dating, and then we got married, and till this day we're together. But, it reminded me of that, so it's those intentions of understanding that, And now I'm trying to be more intentional, even with kids, right? We sometimes, when you were saying about 20, 21-year-olds and this and that, my whole mindset has changed dramatically in the last few months when it comes to that. I am not labeling any kids anymore when it comes to teenagers or this and that. They are adults. Plain blank. These are adults. Because the amount of things that I went through as a kid at 13 to 14 years old was what adults go through. Decisions that I've made, the stuff that I did to others, it's just so many things that the moment that we continue putting labels on things and saying, oh, he's just a teenager, he has this amount of time to be irresponsible, it's just crazy. Time is flying. We need to start working with the new generation earlier. We have lost the concept of, I need to pour into these young kids, and that's why I started a project to work with young adults, that I call them, to start pouring into them now, because they're learning fast and they're growing fast.
They have access to information,
big time, more than what we had.
AI, that's
what I'm saying.
there, yeah.
So that's why it's important. So those are again, I'm meeting 20-year-olds who are now millionaires, and I'm like, hold up, this wasn't heard of. So this is why our concept of even relationships, right? Oh, I want to date this person. I want to try it out. No, man, you need to start building yourself as a man of God. You need to start taking, if you're going to get into a relationship and you're thinking about getting sexual with that person, you need to start thinking, is this a person, a God-fearing person, vice versa, her, him, and do you want to take that to the marriage status? So I want to be very traditional when it comes to that, and I want to be very, how can I say, more direct when it comes to that, because people are playing with their lives.
Yeah, I think a big factor into that is environment. Environment matters, man. It's if you're growing up in a household where, let's say, maybe your parents are divorced, or there's just an unhealthy relationship, you never really got to experience that, when what it is to be in a happy marriage growing up, or how it is to treat a woman, or how it is to treat a man, or just your environment outside of the house. All these factors come into play, and there's a lot of that happening right now. And you mentioned earlier, like, especially living here in Miami, so many superficial relationships, so many casual relationships here in Miami. And I'm a firm believer that Miami is long overdue for saving. And I see the power of God working in Miami through people like you, through people like me, through people like our churches and our pastors, and see the amount of transformation that is happening in Miami alone. And it's becoming more and more like, wow. I don't know if you're starting to see it. I don't know if it's my algorithm, but you're starting to see a lot more people being more outspoken with their relationship with God. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, there's probably people out there on social media that try to leverage that for likes and stuff like that. Yeah. And those are obviously God bless them. But there's actually people out there really trying to disciple on social media. Like that, I follow pages all the time now. Like, there's young kids that are really trying to deliver the word, deliver the message, and even you, somebody who has a podcast, who has a platform that's able to deliver the message of God through these type of conversations. That is just part of our duty in 2025 to make sure that we are able to leverage everything we have, all the people, all the technology, everything. And Miami, and in the topic of relationships, it's all about environment. If you're going to be surrounding yourself around people who are constantly going out every single weekend or cheating on their wives, on their girlfriends, if you're part of that crew, you're most likely going to be the next up in that case. But I would strongly recommend to anybody who's even watching this, to really prioritize your inner circle, the people that you hang out with, the people that you're able to really commit a lot of your time to, because this is going to be the biggest thing in your life, because center of influences matter so much nowadays. And if you want to become somebody who wants a happy relationship, who wants a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage, surround yourself around people who have healthy marriages, who have great relationships, someone you can look up to. So like that's what's kind of helped me and develop a little bit more in my relationship and stuff like that. Because personally, like I don't come from healthy relationships.
Right.
My parents, far from healthy, right? And you know, even my fiance, far from healthy. So it's more so like when we prioritize us surrounding ourselves with married couples, and we start learning from them, and we start doing the premarital courses. I told you about that, like really focusing on other and learning from someone who's been married for years, right? Like we can even talk all the time. You've been married for 26 years, so it's something that I can learn a lot from you on practical things that I can implement in my marriage, and it just that's what's gonna allow you to really succeed in relationships. And it trickles down to everything that you do. It trickles into your business world, into your businesses, into your finances, and that's something that I'm going to be using now through finances, is surrounding yourself around people who are doing finances the right way.
Yeah, and that's so important. And you know, I tried to not tackle the issues that we see, right? Especially here in Miami. You know, I talk to a lot of single people. I talk to a lot of people that want to find relationships. You know, there's so many things happening, especially here in Miami, when it comes to you're starting to see more people being more attracted to Christianity, and they're joining churches, and there's just so much going on. And my whole advice and my outcry to anyone is to spend time with God through His Word. His Word is a light to our path. He will give you direction and understanding. No one else can do that. No one else can do that. If you rely on yourself, your own efforts, on what the preacher is talking about, and you're just focused on what the person talks about in church, but you're not building a relationship through the Word of God. If Christ Himself, when He was in battle with Satan, and when he came and he tried to tempt him, the one thing that He used to defend Himself was, "It is written." It is written. It is written 3 times. So Jesus, who is the Word, used the Word to fight off the enemy. So to me, that's important, because sometimes we want to tackle, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of prostitution, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of this, and there's a lot of that. That's not the problem. The problem is you are filling your life with all those things and not filling yourself with Christ. Somebody came up to me one time and said, "Raj, I think it's going to be really hard for me to go to church. I think it's going to be really hard for me to do all these things." And I said, well, the reason why it's going to be hard to do those things is because you don't have a relationship with Christ. Because once you get to know Jesus personally, what does He say? He says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." You see, it all comes down to love. He says, "Let your heart keep my commandments." It means it's a decision that I make personally to follow. The reason why I do certain things with my wife, and you know, sometimes she wants to do certain things and I really don't want to, but I do it because I love her. Right? I don't do it because it's a requirement. I do it because I love her. It's a difference. So that's why we have to really spend time with God. And you said something very important. Your environment is important. If you're hanging out with people that are constantly doing the opposite, right? You're never going to grow spiritually. And the other thing is you know, there's always going to be the watered down uh, Christian, right? The ones that say basically, you know, making Jesus's grace and his mercy cheap, right? Come as you are and stay as you are.
Yep.
It doesn't work that way. You have to build on the fact that Jesus is calling you and he wants us to imitate. Remember that whole thing, the perfection? If you continue putting in your mind that it's impossible, well, then you put in your mind, well, you know what? Jesus loves me so much that he's okay for me to stay this way.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely not. We are not saved by our works. We're saved by his grace. But because of his grace and because of what he did on the cross for me, and because I have built a relationship, because I love him, I'm going to do everything I can to please him. That's the whole thing, right? And that's how we treat our spouses, our loved ones. We want to do things to please them because we love them. We don't want to see them hurt.
Yeah.
Right? So it comes down to that. And so I want to kind of go into a subject with you because I think, you know, there's so much we could go into. Since you're really good in finances, how do you feel about joint accounts in a relationship?
Well, honestly, it really depends on how the person, how the couple wants to navigate their finances. Because I deal with people who have individual accounts, and I have people who literally have everything in one joint account, and they literally operate their finances as one. I personally like the joint account because it just especially when you believe in what I believe in how marriage unites us as one. Sure. I'm a firm believer that we will unite our finances as one as well. So no matter if I'm making the majority of the money of the income that I'm bringing in compared to my wife, it doesn't matter. That's going to be our money. It's kind of like a Dave Ramsey kind of style, but honestly, it just really depends on how they want to navigate their finances. Because what I really focus on when I have conversations with people is, what are your goals? Because based on your goals and how much in depth you want to get with your goals is going to ultimately determine the trajectory of how we're gonna structure your cash flow, how we're gonna be able to be able to navigate your bank accounts, where the money's going in, how the money's coming out, because that's ultimately gonna be the difference maker in everything. But I believe in joint accounts for the fluidity of cash flow. It depends if, let's say, if you're a business owner, it's a little bit different when you're a business owner, because you have a business account, and you also have your personal account. So it's learning how to navigate that. I personally, in my personal relationship, we have a joint bank account.
That's awesome.
And we use that to pay all of our household expenses. Yeah. So that right there it serves its purpose. Just like I would recommend if you have like a lifestyle account that you just use to for leisure. Hey, put some money in there, and that's going to be used for leisure. I believe that structuring your accounts it's just going to make your finances a lot easier to navigate. And it's going to make you more disciplined, because I'm a firm believer in habits, and being able to build those habits, and being able to build automated structures that are going to allow you to really have that fluent cash flow structure, and you're going to, and by doing so, you're able to grow your wealth and have a plan set out to just accomplish everything you want to accomplish in life. So I recommend it, but it's more so, it just depends on the person, on the scenario. Because once comprehensive planning, it can get very comprehensive. Like, it could get very, very in depth. There's so much going on. I could have the most basic case where someone just has one checking account, they're a single person, or I can have somebody who has an S corporation. They have 3 different bank accounts. Now they have a tax account. Now they have a personal account. They got employees. They got benefits. They got all these things where you start to really okay, now we start talking about tax mitigation strategies and how can we save you on taxes. That we work with your CPA to make sure you're getting the most tax deductions on your on your income. And this is what I enjoy teaching, and what I want to be able to provide people is when you're able to build that proper financial structure, the foundation, just like we talk about putting God in the center of our lives and the foundation of our lives and building off of that. It's similar in the case in your financial picture. When you're able to structure yourself in a way and stick to that, and it's a relationship with your money that you're going to constantly have to navigate on a daily basis. I'm a firm believer, the more you look at your balance sheet, the more likely that you're going to succeed with your finances. There's people out there that don't look at their account. They don't look at their balance sheets. They're just hoping and praying that they have some money in their account, and it's okay, because majority of people do that, but they only know what they know. And that's why people like me come into play, where I'm able to provide that. And I always tell people, and I've been told this by multiple of my clients, that I'm just so blessed, and I believe that God put you in my life for a reason. Because when I'm very open about my faith, like I talk to my clients about my faith all the time, and they use that wow, I think God put you in my life for a reason. I was like, I know God put me in your life for a reason, because I'm just a vehicle to be able to help steward your finances, because there's a much bigger plan for you. So, but you have to believe it, just like you have to truly believe in your and build your relationship with God. You need to be able to have that relationship with your finances as well, if you want to be able to grow it and sustain it. And we're talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 years worth, where in this day and age where it's a lot of short-term gratification, and it's very hard to really think long-term. It's more like the older generation that has planned for long-term, and the Warren Buffetts of the world, he always had that long-term mentality.
But it comes down to education, right? I think it just, I think now people are getting more access to what you're presenting, because I think it was a small number of people that had access to that or can even see that. So now, with the podcasting, with social media and all that, so now a lot of people are already figuring out, well, there's access to funding, there's access to this, you can do this and this and that. So there are just so many things now when it comes to finances. And let me tell you, that's one area in my life that I need to get right, because it's been something that has been years that I've been just running away from. And let me tell you this, by the grace and mercy of God, God, again, he is patient with our ignorance and our stubbornness. And again, everything has its time, right? But there's one thing, there's always always use the parable of the talents. And this is where I don't want to get caught, right? Is where God gives me the gift which he has given me. And he says, and then he comes back and he's like, okay, what did you do with my talents? Well, I buried it and I just waited for you to get back. And then I just said, so that's where we need to find ourselves. Are you using God's talents properly? Are you increasing that which he gave you, the responsibility that has been put into your hands? And this is why we have to work out our faith every single day. Once again, don't fall into that idea that it's impossible, that, hey, it's okay, this is just the way I am, and this is where I need to be. God wants us to be able to strive and be better, be at peace. So
there's a big thing in my experience in finance, and people want to always be in control. And that control aspect of, I want to be able to control every aspect of my finances, is actually doing them a disservice, because they're blocking out, like you said, the education. And honestly, because this information is so easily accessible now, I feel like it's people are less likely to take action over these things because there's so many people out there doing, like you said, the business funding or taxes or financial planning or whatever it is. But this is all about relationships, and it's all about being able to build trust into having the right people in your inner circle.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that having a proper advisor, somebody that can help steward your finance, help structure your finances is very important. I'm a firm believer you want to have a CPA in your circle and have an attorney. So I feel like I like to call that the love triangle. And that's something that to have those people in your like inner circle, that's going to be very, very key to be able to build the life, at least on the finance side of things. And, you know, I think this was recent actually that I've been praying so much about, God, how can you use me more in terms of what I'm currently doing right now to help people with their finances and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm such a builder. I'm a creator. I'm a developer at heart, and I'm good at leveraging technology as well. I'm good at operations. I'm good at building systems. So I'm like, okay, because God blessed me with these skill sets, right, outside of knowing how to deal with finances, right, how can I bring more into the marketplace, bring more value to people? And that's when I started really getting back into development mode and started really building out a platform that's actually going to be helping people and provide people the resources, the tools, the education, the access to licensed financial professionals like myself to be able to do that at a level where it's very easy. And finances and talking about your finances could be very scary. And that's one thing I've realized. People are afraid to open up about their finances to someone like myself or just anybody in general. They like to hold it very close to their hearts. They don't like to tell anybody about their issues, whether they have a lot of debt or they have, you know, whatever problems they have, or maybe they're not where they want to be at yet. It's very hard for them.
It's pride, right? It's always pride, and that's where the Bible goes again. This is on the spiritual aspect, right? It says, confess your sins to one another. And that's where I was talking about, when you bring the issues to light, when the word is able to present to you the condition of your lifestyle, and you're able to confront that, it burns, it hurts, it sucks. And it's shameful, it's embarrassing, and you don't want to put it out there. But that's where the transformation happens. That's where change happens. That's what a lot of people don't realize. So I think what you're doing, once again, don't hesitate on this. And again, I know it was God that sent you, and I know that God was impressing me to have this conversation with you, because I think this conversation is something really uncomfortable for me, but it's necessary. So I know that God is going to use you in a tremendous way, is already using you in a tremendous way, sharing this information, especially with people that are part of God's kingdom, right? Because once we take control, let me change that. Once we allow God to take control of our finances, and this is the beauty part of God. This is how, God owns everything. Yeah. Everything.
That's why you got to give him 10%,
But that's what I'm saying. Look, but what kind of business?
all he asks is for 10%.
Right. What kind of business owner is going to say, you know what? All I want is 10% of the business, and you stay with all of the rest. And it's just,
that's a different conversation we can have.
Different conversation, yeah. But what I think is interesting is when we allow and just let go and just let God do his work, because he knows all things, So Anthony, once again, man, there's so much I want to talk to you about. This is not going to be the last time. We're going to do something.
For sure, man.
But I want people to understand what you do. So where can people find you? What are you doing right now? Is there like a mastermind? What are you offering? Like, I know you didn't come here to sell anything, but listen, man, it's not about selling. Let me tell you this. If you're needing financial help. You need to get your business or whatever it is. I don't even know. I haven't gotten into details with Anthony yet, but all I know is don't be ashamed. There's so many people going through financial problems, and they just need the information. You can take your business to the next level if you just make certain changes. So, Anthony, tell me, what is it?
Well, you did a very good job at
No,
really,
man, I don't
really
know, man.
explaining it. No, for sure. I think for me, the biggest thing that I see in my industry and how I try to really help people and try to help them structure themselves in finance, because the world of finance is just so big. There's so many areas that you can focus on strictly in finance, right? You can focus on insurance, on the protection side. You can focus on wealth management, on the investment side. You can focus on being a certified financial planner, or being just focusing on strictly structuring and planning. You still deal with a whole bunch of other things, but it's more so where I found where I really want to focus on, and that's financial structure. Structure, why? Because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I would like to say it's important to understand that the biggest problem most entrepreneurs have, most business owners have, is lack of structure. And because they have lack of structure, as their income is fluctuating constantly up and down, they don't have that foundation, that structure set up, that's making sure that they're setting themselves up for long-term success. Yeah. And when you're able to structure yourself in the best possible way, you're able to deal with the ups and downs in business, the slow seasons a lot better. And you actually be able to feel like, wow, I'm actually reaping a little more benefit from my business. There's a lot of businesses, or business owners, I should say, that are business rich, but personally poor. So like it's really being able to integrate the two and create a system that allows you to have that fluidity, and you're prioritizing yourself, you're paying yourself as well. A lot of us like to reinvest a lot back into our businesses at an early stage. And, I help my clients a lot and talk about on proper ways to structure yourselves, proper plans that are going to help you do that in the most efficient way possible. And for me right now, what I do is I literally help people one-on-one right now to be able to help review their entire financial picture. I tell them what gaps they have in their finances, and let's try to fill those gaps up. Whether, I like to focus on the 4 pillars: protection, cash flow, assets, and liabilities. Those are the 4 pillars I like to focus on, because once you're able to navigate through all those 4 pillars, because there's a lot that goes into each one. Let's start checking off each of the list, the little items that are in each of those pillars. And the more checks you have, the better setup that you're going to be set up for the future. But like I told you, God put it in my heart about 2 months ago to start developing a platform, because I feel like the barrier of entry to be able to talk to a professional like me is not so easy, or people are not easily like, hey, Anthony, I need some help, or help me. A lot of people like to do it themselves. A lot of people like to get some more information, educate.
Cut the cost, but you're spending.
And honestly,
it's much more expensive.
Exactly. And there's a lot of things that I felt like there was a big problem, especially in the finance space, where there was a lack of tools, a lack of resources, a lack of a platform that you can have everything that's going to allow you to create your own financial plan. Some people are like to manage their own finances by themselves. So I'm actually in beta testing on my platform. It's called Financial Structure Lab. And that right there is going to be, you're going to be able to leverage technology and AI to be able to create your own financial plan, to create your security, to be able to be a platform where you're going to be able to manage your own finances,
take more control
as well. So I'm really excited. We're in beta testing phase right now. So that means the platform is essentially pretty much built, and I'm inviting a lot of people right now. It's what day is it today?
Today's the 15th.
Today's the 15th. So beta is probably gonna last until probably the end of this month. And I'm having people actually going on the platform and really just experiencing it for the first time, getting awesome, feedback. Man. And my goal, my vision with that is to be able to just provide access And access there, it's going to give people also access to licensed financial professionals in any particular industry as well. And it's going to be a gateway. I want to be able to be a gateway. And if people want to personally, reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram. I'm very active on there. Anthony J. Pastrana. That's literally my name. And you can find me there, or you can just shoot me an email. Anthony.pastrana@natfin.net. That's my company email, because I am a part of one of the biggest financial firms in the country as well. So I have that backing. I have the resources. I have the tools to be able to just help you right now. I'm not waiting for the platform. The platform is just going to be an addition to the value that I can provide. And
That's awesome.
Just to be able to just continue providing as much value. And I just pray every single day for God to just use me in this way. And the right people are going to find themselves running into whether it's the platform that I'm building or just me personally. I'll love to help, and just always just have that confidence. If you feel like you don't know where you're at, maybe just pray on it. If you're not there yet on prayer and your relationship with God, just really all it takes is for you just to reach out and just say, hey, Anthony, or just ask me a question. I'm active, so I'll respond with any questions or answers that you may need. And that's pretty much that. So
awesome, man. Anthony, it was a blessing having you here on the podcast, man. And thank you so much for coming in. And once again, may the Lord continue to bless your lips, your mind, your heart, continue being an instrument for him. And, financial literacy, man, so much needed, man. So again, and congrats on, again, your engagement. Tiffany, she's, get that marriage going on.
Yeah.
Do you have a date already?
We don't have an official date, but we have a couple of options for sometime in 2026.
Here we go.
For the wedding. Marriage is different. I like to tell her, marriage and wedding are two different things. A marriage can happen tomorrow, whenever we decide, like, yeah, let's step into marriage and stuff. But wedding celebration, most likely in 2026.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Well, congrats. May the Lord continue to bless you. And once again, thank you again, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.